And I
And
think
do
we're
we
not
want to
quite.
do, sorry, Adrian.
Oh, and I don't know. Mark, did you hear that? We're ready. Okay.
Excellent. Okay, do we want to do roll call real quick?
Yes. Mandy, you're muted. Are you,
Oh,
are
I'm
you
sorry.
calling through?
Yeah, sorry. Vish, are you here?
Yep.
Excellent. And Melanie, I saw you, I think. No, I didn't see Melanie. You're not here because I'm doing your job. Fritz, I saw you.
I'm here.
Excellent. Jane.
Hello.
Hello. And Stephen.
Stephen is not able to make it today.
No, Stephen. Okay. And Danny.
I'm here.
Hi, Danny. And is Lily arrived yet?
Lily's not here, and I didn't hear from her that she wouldn't be able to make it. So maybe she'll come late.
Okay. And I bet that Vacant is not here, so that's good. Okay. And we've already had one change to the agenda, correct?
Well, and if we could introduce Councillor Browse and Crystal and myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I'm out of practice already. Councillor Browse, are you here? I think I saw you.
Yep, I'm here.
And of course, Crystal is here.
Yep, I'm here.
And I know Adrian is here.
Yes. Thank you.
And now there were some changes to the agenda. So Councillor Browse, we're going to go, your part was going to be moved to which part of the agenda?
So I'm thinking what we do, so Councillor Browse needs to leave right at 5, and just to make sure we don't cut off council updates. And then the other piece I don't want her to miss is the cooperative agreement process review. So let's just shuffle. So that's page 2 of the agenda. We'll shuffle cooperative agreement process and council updates up. And because user survey is just early results, we'll swap that and do that after. It's going to throw to 55. Well, just right after. We'll do council updates, and then we'll go back to user survey.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the first part's actually going to go faster than it says.
There we go then. All right. So has everybody had a chance to look at the May minutes? I'll take that as a yes.
Yes. Yes.
Can I get a move to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Excellent, thank you. And can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Right. And all those in favor of approving the May 19th minutes, please say aye.
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 All, great. All those opposed, no. Fantastic. The meeting minutes for May 19th are approved. And now we can move on to library updates with Adrian.
Wonderful, thank you. So I want to start with just a little housekeeping sorts of things. So as a reminder, this is our last virtual meeting. Thank you to everybody for getting your technology working, being present for these meetings. I really appreciate that. It's been quite the adjustment, and several of you have only known these virtual meetings, and then we'll get to meet you in person. So the next meeting, we don't traditionally have an August meeting. The next meeting, we'll skip August, go to the third Wednesday of September, and that will be in person. That meeting will also go back to our traditional time, pre-pandemic time, which is 6:30 to 8 p.m. And so third Wednesday of September, let me just make sure I say the right thing, is September 15th.
Where do you meet? Where will this meet?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so we used to meet in conference room A, which is just off of the main community room. That room, we can't do 6 feet distancing very well. It is a big table and we can spread out, but I think it would be more like, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet distancing. So I wanted to check and see, would folks prefer if we had a larger space? If the community room should be available, which is next door. I don't know if you want to indicate if anybody, I think it would be better to be in the community room. I thought we'd just try that, I guess, as long as that works for everyone. And then we could always go back to the conference room A. Conference room A is a little bit more comfortable. There's a bigger table. It feels, I don't know, it feels more collaborative to me, and less austere, but we can always go back to that later. No? Okay. So to get to the community room, the easiest way is to go through the parking lot entrance. You're in that lobby, and then immediately to your right, if you just kind of turn around, is the community room entrance there. Same room that's used for when we did story times in person, same room that city council happens in, all that. If you come through the other entrance through the library, just keep on walking through the library, go through the lobby, and come right to that community room. Note that when we get done, the library, so we're not open till 8 p.m. right now on Wednesdays, but we'll be back to that soon. And the library closes at 8. So when it's time to leave, the only exit that would be open would be through the parking lot doors. So it's kind of nice if you park over there if you're driving. What else was I going to say? And if you have library business to do, then do it before. Sometimes we get done early and people are like, I'm going to go pick up my holds. They're jetting out. And then I'll go back to, I used to have some snacks and some tea and so on. Masks would be optional. But I think distancing would just be nice just because everybody's transitioning back to in person. But that's almost 2 months from now. So maybe by then it will be like no big deal. Or maybe by then the rules will change and we'll have to go back to virtual. We'll just be flexible. Any questions about the meeting logistics? Okay, good. Let's see, for sharing, also had, let me make sure I have it here. I have some stats I wanted to share too. 1 second. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Or can you see stats on the screen? Did it pop up onto the screen just because I moved it there? Okay. Okay. Make sure. I'm trying to make it bigger. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. There. Do you still see it a little bit bigger?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
big.
Okay, so we can include this when we send up the minutes, but I just want to show, so the cooperative, Washington County Cooperative Library Services prepares these. I've shared different monthly snapshots, but this is a fiscal year. And so you can see for Sherwood, comparing fiscal year 1920, which of course had some of the pandemic. It had, 3.5 months of the pandemic on it. And then most of the fiscal year that just finished, we were only down 16.5% for checkouts. So this would be checkouts that people checked out in person, through curbside, any physical material that they checked out at Sherwood Public Library. And then also any ebooks or downloadable audiobooks if they're a Sherwood patron. I think this is interesting. I think it's a sign of success that we did really well. This one doesn't show what I had pointed out in some previous emails, that the percentage of ebooks and digital checkouts had gone up so much. So ours, we're still checking out more print materials, hard copy, than digital, even though digital has stayed really strong. Other libraries saw smaller increases with digital. And so you can kind of see really disparities in the county too, I think, of where where there's less access. Now, West Slope, the bottom one, is an outlier because they had a big remodel and they were closed for a big part of that. And Tualatin also was closed for a big part, and they were only doing curbside when many libraries were reopening. But many of them, I think, it's just telling, I guess, like say the percentage change. So I will be going back into stats and sharing more and getting back into the visual production of the reports and so on. I just wanted to share that, but 16.5% is what we're down. Let's see, I'm going to close that. Go back up for other library updates. So right now our hours are Monday have been restored fully 10 to 8 p.m. Traditionally, we would be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday until 8 p.m. Right now, we're still 10 to 5. We're planning on adding that last bit of the 5 to 8 p.m. The second week of August. And a big reason for that is we had a staff person who just left for a different job at another library, and we're filling that vacancy, and that person starts that week. So we had a big hole in the schedule. We couldn't otherwise patch it together. And then we were also traditionally open 5 to 6 on Fridays and Saturdays. Right now, we're still closing at 5. That change should be fixed either by the end of this month or the first week of August. That one's easier to fix. And then we'll be back up to full hours. The cordoned off areas of the library are uncordoned off now, and so the fireplace area is completely available. The children's area is completely available. The furniture is all back out there. It's not necessarily where it was before. And actually, right now, if you go this week, there's been some work from Public Works and contractors working on the blinds. So there's furniture is looking kind of odd over on the adult side of the library. And there's a big scissor lift in the way. But otherwise, things are back that way. We still have summer reading materials in the young adult area staged there so that people can distance from each other more than pre-pandemic. We would have put that all on a cart and had it right near the front desk, and it made people bunch up more. So that part's still different. And then in the children's area, we don't have our toys out yet. Even though we opened it up, there are some interactive pieces, just a little bit. There's the what we call the house kiosk, so big wooden structure that kids can interact with some pieces that are attached to it. And there's a spinning disc that's also fun, but our pre-pandemic toys are not out, like the puppets. There were a lot of little figurines that kids would play with. Those haven't come out yet. The puzzles haven't come out yet. There was one of those beaded toys that especially the toddlers love, like you see in doctor's offices. So we're not all the way restored yet, but we're kind of waiting, not because we have to for rules, but it just for what we're sensing that patrons want things to still be clean because kids aren't vaccinated yet. So baby steps. And then for programming, we have the outdoor programs have been going really well at Cannery Square. So we had, I think what the first one was, Angel Ocasio did a program in Cannery Square. No, I think I'm saying the wrong thing. His was virtual. That one was virtual. We had Reptile Man. Normally he gets an audience around 300, 350 people. We had, I think about half that, but that's felt really good for having a library program again. And people were a mix of masks and not masks. And then we just had another concert for kids. So it's what we traditionally call our Tuesdays at 2 section programming. Storytime in the Park, the bilingual Storytime in the Park also is going live in Stella Olson Park. That one's a little different than traditionally. Rather than having everybody do the same activity together, they're kind of more drop-in. So you can drop in and play a physical activity game with YMCA. You can pick up lunch to go. There's a story walk where the pages are laminated on signs. I'm saying this as if it's happening right now. It's going to be happening very soon. So that's outdoors. And then for indoor program, oh, did I say a hand? Jane, was that you?
Yes,
Yeah.
who are your community partners? I know you, and then you said lunches. Who's helping you do the
Oh,
lunches?
thank you. Yes, big thank you to Helping Hands that they're providing
Helping
the
Hands.
lunches.
Mhm.
And YMCA, the Art Center is traditionally involved, but they're not involved this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was like, is this a trick question? Is Rotary involved in this? And I didn't know. I don't think so.
No,
no. Okay.
It's wonderful that you got it pulled together with some community partners. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels really good to have that going again. And so then our other programs are all continuing virtually through the summer. And then starting in September, we're going to be bringing back the book discussion groups for all ages. So there's 3 for kids, there's a teen book discussion, which that one usually starts in October, and there's an adult book discussion, and those will all come back to in person. This meeting, of course, will happen in person in September. Mid-September, we're bringing back baby story time. The following week, we'll keep baby story time and add the next age group up, which is called Fun for Ones. And then the following week, we'll keep those 2 going and add a 3rd one that's kind of more for all the rest of the little kids. And we're just going to do those 3 for a while. Some of you that have been with us for a while, you might remember we used to have 5 or even 7 story times going, had more than that over the years. So we'll start with those 3 and kind of see what we're getting for numbers and possibly split out the family one for a toddler time and preschool story time, depending on how many people we're getting and so on. Masks will be strongly encouraged. They won't be required since that's, it's not a stance the city is taking right now. And then, of course, all of this is subject to change, of course, if rules at the state or county level change if things got worse. There's some of that I meant to say in strategic focusing, but that's, let's see, library updates. I'll come back to budget updates. The other things in September, we're bringing, we don't have final confirmation on this, but we're planning on bringing the citizenship classes back as well. So we started those in 2018, and then we had to pause with the pandemic. They didn't move to virtual, and those are a priority to bring back in person. So that's a target for adults. And that's a series of citizenship prep for being prepared to take the citizenship exam. Other programs we're going to evaluate and bring back. Some will continue virtually as well. So just because we're starting these in person doesn't mean we're dropping the rest. There'll be things like estate planning and some other kind of one-off things that will continue virtually. And we're getting feedback from our patrons that they really appreciate the virtual offerings as well. Were there any questions about anything I've said so far? That was a lot of me talking about reopening. Yes, Jane.
So social justice virtual summer camp is August 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And I've heard wonderful things about it. And Rotary is helping.
Yes. So that, I was going to talk about that in other programming updates. So that, let's hold that thought, actually. I do have more. Thank you, Jane. It's an important one. I do have more I want to say about that one. Any other questions about reopening or in-person programs? Okay. Okay, so for budget updates, mostly I just wanted to share as a reminder, we're in a new budget cycle now with July. The library budget was approved with the exception of the personnel requests that we made. We do have some small projects and things that like one-time stuff that was funded. You know, we have the budget we need otherwise to do everything that we've asked for. The part about not getting the personnel requests, there were 2 part-time positions we were asking to have increase in hours. It's going to be limiting us in some ways of not being able to do as much, and we have to be a little bit more lean. Thank you, Councilor Browse, for your statements to the budget process to support us. We'll ask again next year. So just keep that going. As we've been working with the budget, and if you don't look at personnel costs, the budget feels really good, but it's staff time that, of course, is the hardest one to solve. And so part of the strategic focusing updates, actually, I'll speak about that. I'll put that back up on the screen there in just a second, too. The part about programming we've been talking about with the librarian staff. Let's see, there we go. Do you see our familiar document up on the screen? Yeah. Okay. So reopening, so a lot of these things in this first reopening column are fixed or completed now. We're still working on hours, but the number of people is no longer limited. The length of visit is no longer visited. Furniture and the corridor is fixed. We're in process with these in-person programs. Pardon me, what we call our IAS group, or information services, our librarian staff. We had a bigger meeting just last week to really talk about how do we bring back programs in a way that meets these priorities of serving the most underserved, and not just programs, but all of our services. And it was a part 1 meeting. We need to do a part 2 next month. So focusing on the underserved, also realizing, we only have so much capacity and what makes sense to bring back and what's still relevant. So I think I spoke last time about not everything will come back, or at least not right away, like bringing back core services such as story times, literacy-based activities like our book discussions, the citizenship classes. Those are in our first tier of priorities. And then things like trivia might not come back, or it would take quite a long time for that to come back. So it's also about where we put our time. Trivia is actually very time intensive, even though it's really fun. A lot of people loved it. It helped with, in the pandemic, we did virtual trivia, which people loved, but it doesn't seem like the best use of our time when our time is limited and we didn't get the personal requests. So that part's going on. We have the computers are all available, or almost all of them are available drop-in now. We have one-on-one tech help available again. I don't think we've had very many people who ask for help, but we can do it now. This piece about new technology that's not quite done yet. Well, but actually none of that's done yet. And then test proctoring is available. We had just one person inquire about it, but their school requirements didn't match what we can do. Test proctoring, there's a lot of variation for what schools will require and how robust proctoring needs to be. And we can't always meet the requirements. We're not into this column yet. Although we did just hire 2 new staff. So this part about onboarding new staff on our equity work to date is something that I'll have on my plate here soon as I get through more of their regular training. And then the user survey is through July. And that's where we're at with that. Any questions? Maybe I can see you're studiously taking notes for council updates, maybe, or something. Do you want me to put the link in the chat? Would that be helpful?
Oh, no, you're good. I've got the link. I'm
Okay.
old school. I like to take notes.
Okay, good. I do too. I find I remember things better too if I take notes. Okay, so I think that leads me to the programming one. I would go on let's see, summer reading. Actually, I'll say it for summer reading. So summer reading, as a reminder, we're doing it a little bit differently. There's not a reading log and there's no registration, which we also didn't do last year. The youth 0 through 17, they can come in anytime through this month, get their free book. There are some optional little reading challenges, and there's some science, technology, engineering, math challenges, and various activities they can make, kind of craft things they can do. And then if they do a certain number of challenges, they can submit that for getting a second free book. The second free book, they can claim that anytime through August. And there's also a chance to win bigger prizes. And then adult summer reading, adults can also come in, get a free book, also no registration. Optionally submit book reviews through August, and the reviews put the participants into raffles for bigger prizes. So that's all going. It's going really well. People are so happy to be back in and picking up their books and so on. All right, and then for the programming updates, so I wanted to talk about social justice virtual camp. So as a reminder, this is the one that's for incoming 3rd through 5th graders. We did a social justice story hour, which was designed more for younger children and families. We did that in the spring. It went really well. And the themes are about peace building and empathy. We work really hard to make sure this is not at all political. It's not meant to be anything polarizing. And the Social Justice Story Hour was also sponsored by Rotary. Thank you, Rotary and Peace Committee. We had a lot of people who participated in that who asked, will you be doing more? Please do more. And it also fit in with our strategic plan that we've been working with. And while we didn't have a strategic plan for 2020, because, everything with the pandemic and being behind a little bit anyway, we're kind of, extending goals and values from that first strategic plan forward, in which they also show up in the strategic focus areas. So the people who were requesting and want something additional, doing it for the next age group made a lot of sense. That's what this one is. It happens virtually. It's the first week of August, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's about I think it's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It's registration required. It's hosted by a library with Rotary involvement as well, presenting
11 to 12:30.
Oh, thank you, Jane. 11 to 12:30. So we have, it's about half full right now. A number of those people are regular patrons who are from our book clubs and other programs that Jamie's done. We are aware of feedback, negative feedback in the community. There are people who think that this is too political. So far, no one has actually said that to us. It's just coming to our attention through other means, people who've seen it and alerted us. I wanted you to be aware of that. The feedback that's coming to us is hugely positive. And it's not, it's not a huge, it's a wonderful, in my opinion, it's a wonderful program we're doing. It's a piece of everything else. It's not the only work that we do. And our goal is not to change people's minds, but to offer a space for for youth to discuss and to learn. And so they actually, let me bring up the page. So I'm going to go, I think there are a few ways to do this. I'm going to go to library calendar and go ahead to August and social justice virtual camp. And so in here, there's descriptions on. These are the themes that they're talking about. Discovering your own identity, our own identities, making unlikely friends, coping with loss, crossing borders, lending a helping hand, advocating for change. And then there's kind of an art activity that they can do at the end. Jamie has the children's version of the book stamped. by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi, and it's adapted by Sonia Cherry Paul. So they'll get a copy of that. They also get a number of arts and crafts supplies, some of which they can use on their own, and some that we'll do in the session. How am I doing on time, by the way? Let me just toggle back. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hey, Adrian.
Yeah.
Has Travis reached out to you asking more information about some of the topics?
No one has reached out to me.
Is it? Go ahead.
Oh, Jamie sent an email to everybody registered with some more information, including like picking up the kits and everything. And we just got positive feedback from that.
Okay.
I was a participant last time, and Jamie published the bibliography of the books that she used, and we shared them at Saturday Market, and they were very well received. And then we helped put the kits together that the young people are going to receive. And, you know, I'm here to tell you that it's not political. It's not. It's very timely, and I think it's going to be very useful. 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are ready to talk a little bit more about important matters.
Thank you, Jane. Councilor Browse, did you have more to say about Travis's questions?
If there is any way to maybe send a synopsis of what each topic is going to be about, that will help Travis prepare for some of the questions that he's getting from the community, since the Rotary's Club's name is on the project.
I'm thinking about the best way to do that. So the person who could best answer that level of detail would be Jamie. And my concern would be that if people are asking for that level of detail, they should just talk to Jamie, you know,
Yeah.
because she's got the curriculum and she could answer more. You know, like I'd be concerned that if he had the information and then they say, well, what does that mean? Right. And like Jamie, maybe it would just be best to, I'd say email, if Travis would refer anybody to me, I'd like to get those, and then I can answer with Jamie as a CC, and then she and I could keep the conversation going. We could keep Travis in on it too, so he knows the answer. If it stays an email, it might be better as a phone conversation. Same thing, if anybody hears anything in the community or the social media groups, I'm happy to answer those questions. I'd prefer that they come to me. Right now, nobody's, you know, they're happening in private discussions or forums that I'm not on. I'm on the Sherwood Community Info Group and the Moms Group, and I haven't seen anything there. So here I thought I'd get done with this part of the agenda faster.
Okay. And maybe Jamie and Travis have already had conversations too, but I will share this information back with him. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, and we expected that, you know, this isn't for everybody. We're not trying, again, to change people's minds. We're not trying to make this be political. And 3rd through 5th graders, when Jamie talks about like they don't either, you know, they're just asking really innocent questions and talking about their thoughts and so on. It's if their parents have more to say, you know, that could get a little trickier. And then just like with any program, if anything were to get inappropriate, if someone were to come in with an agenda and they wanted to make it a really uncomfortable experience for people, they're going to be booted out of Zoom. So we've never had to do that, but we obviously can if we have to. All righty. Was that, Jane? I know you had brought up social justice virtual camps.
Yes, I think I'm going to be a facilitator following Jamie's guidelines. And I complimented her for, you know, how she set things up. And I'm quite confident that this is going to be a healthy, productive thing. This age group, it's important. Empathy and peace building is something that they are hungry for.
Thank you, Jane. And so this brings us to the part where we kind of adjusted the agenda. I'm wondering again, maybe instead of doing cooperative agreement process review next, maybe Councilor Browse, I wonder if you want to do your updates and questions and then we do that. And I think it's up to you which you want. But if we do the CAP review first, we might cut short your council updates time.
Let me just run down really quick. That way, I feel like I'm at least meeting the expectation as counselor of sharing what's going on in council. But I'll do it quickly, and if you have questions, please ask. You did reference the budget. I do want to say that if you've watched the budget hearing, I did vote against it. I didn't explain why because I went through all that in the budget hearing piece, but I voted against the budget because of what we were doing by taking the staff member out of, or the staff positions out of the library's budget. If you want more details, let me know. I'd be happy to discuss. As far as what's going on in council, we had our first meeting in person for the last, year and a half or so yesterday. It was kind of nice being back in person. We are discussing design standards in preparation for House Bill 2001, I think, regarding having middle housing and different sorts of housing opportunities. So that's a very interesting discussion. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it right now, but again, if you have some heavy opinion about how things should look, please let me know. We're in the process of hiring a city manager. We've narrowed it down to, I think, 5 candidates, and so we will be having in-person interviews coming up soon. Coming up is the final rendition of the sign code, and so we had a conversation last night regarding murals. There's a mural that's going to be done on the symposium building. We talked about feather signs, which are those signs that look like a feather that are around town. So that sign code will be adopted at the next meeting. We'll be recognizing high school students who have done very well in school, both academically and athletically. We have a conversation regarding UGB expansion, which is preparing us for Sherwood West. More conversation about chickens. There's a number of community members who would like to have chickens in town. Again, another topic that if you have some thoughts about, please let me know. We'll be doing some zoning and code cleanup, which isn't very exciting, but necessary. And then we will be discussing alfresco. As you probably are aware, there's been tents up downtown Sherwood to help our restaurants and businesses get by during the pandemic. They will be coming down soon, but we're having further conversation. There's some community members obviously like that and are encouraging us to continue that. It is a city decision. It's not council decision. So again, any thoughts, please let me know. Jane?
I want to hear about changes in TriMet. The tents are coming down, but are you also going to open up bus stops that had been rerouted or changed? I mean, that's TriMet, but I meant, they're talking to you, I imagine.
Yeah, so we've not had a lot of discussion about TriMet. My understanding was that once the tents come down, the routes would go back to the normal route. However, there have been some conversations about keeping it the way that it is, but I don't know that there's been resolution on that. So I have a feeling that when we have this next conversation, we'll find out more then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Other than that, that's all I have, unless there's other questions.
Looks like we can move on. So, Adrian, did you want to go on to the user survey or the CAP review?
Let's do CAP review.
Okay.
And so my user survey logged me out too, and I was trying to get logged back in, and it's not quite. But actually, I want to have so okay. So the CAP review, so it's cooperative agreement process. And so that includes those intergovernmental agreements or IGAs that we have with WCCLS. And you may recall that council has some strong interest in one of the IGAs called the Public Library Services Agreement. And inside that, also known as the PLSA, is the funding distribution to member libraries. And every time there's a new levy, the funding distribution is looked at, the PLSA is updated, the IGAs in general have to be updated and re-signed. But then as a reminder, we did a 1-year kind of add-on to extend the last batch of IGAs because there was just so much that was unknown, not just we, Sherwood, but everybody in the cooperative. So there's work being done countywide at the level I'm at and the city manager level, people who are on the executive board or their colleagues who are not municipal members, city members, but rather and nonprofits like executive directors and so on. So we all come together and have these cooperative agreement process or CAP meetings. And I think I gave you an update a while ago, but I want to give you another update. So if you go to wccls.org and actually I'm on the About page, so this starts off. If I'm at wccls.org and go to About, and then under Governance, so this is all public information, then here you can view the public CAP documents, and you can actually attend as well. So if anybody wants to register to attend them on Zoom, you're perfectly welcome to. So if I click on the CAP documents, then I'll guide you through this in just a second here. So we've got the meeting agendas and minutes are in this folder, a dashboard of, it's an Excel spreadsheet, but it's what the schedule is for the different topics. This is an orientation slide. If you're not familiar with the CAP process at all, this is what they all looked like when it was kicking off the process. And also this CAP rules and expectations and decision-making. That's also kind of a big picture to kick off the project. So the CAP dashboard I wanted to show you. And some of these dates maybe aren't going to happen quite as they were planned, early on in the process. Let's see, the PLSA funding distribution hasn't really started too much yet. There's been a lot of groundwork. So everything to date has been groundwork to be able to have informed discussions about funding distribution. So we've been talking about the IT agreements, everything that WCCLS does and provides, those rules, the different parts of the governance. I don't believe the executive board bylaws has started yet either. But the PLSA funding distribution target completion is December. And meanwhile, this is not really listed on here. Let me go over to the meeting calendar. This is very wide document, so I'm going to make it smaller just to give you kind of a feel for it. But the dates are here in this column A. These are the topics we've had so far. So if you're interested in a particular topic, you could go back to that folder with the meeting minutes and agendas and read on in more detail about that. Or if there's one that you want to attend in the future, you could sign up to attend. So we also talked about county equity, talked about the different types of libraries and how funding those is different, nonprofits, city libraries, county library. We've already talked about some about the population map, but there's a subgroup that's working on updating. Each member library has a legal service area map of what's considered our patrons. So like Fritz, you live in the rural section of the Sherwood service area map outside of the city of Sherwood boundaries. And there's so much growth that's happened in the county that and new roads made, and some of the cities have expanded their boundaries and so on. So that has to be updated. So again, all that's groundwork. And then in September 22nd, be talking about PLSA roles and responsibilities and those bylaws. And there's potential for WCCLS providing different levels of IT support to different libraries. Some of the really small libraries don't have their own IT departments or staff. And they rely on WCCLS and volunteer and sometimes on call or contract IT support. And there might be room for them to actually contract as a paid, what is that called? Not pay per use, we call it, but a paid model where they contract with WCCLS for additional work. That shouldn't affect us in Sherwood very much. We do use WCCLS email at the library, but we've been phasing out of that and are getting ready to switch entirely over to city email. So I'll have more updates at the September meeting. It will be the week before this. I might have the packet for this meeting by then. If there's any kind of slides or something, I can share them at our meeting. But otherwise, it would be something I could share with you via email afterwards, saying here's how that meeting went. But the September, October, November, December meetings should be very rich with PLSA work. Sherwood has one vote at these meetings. I've been attending with Kristen, started, and then of course he left. And so we also don't know yet with the new city manager, will it still be Kristen or will the new city manager want to come in? It would still match precedent of how other libraries handle this to have, a department director, to have Kristen be our rep, and she knows library more. And of course has been with the city for, how many years has it been now? Almost 20, I think, 17, 18. So she would be a good one to have at the table for that. So the funding distribution target is to vote on that at the December 15th meeting. And then that would give everybody time for the budget process. So as we usually, Sherwood goes into our budget process for next fiscal year in around February. So we would have all those numbers in time to know what our funding distribution from the county will be. And no library is supposed to receive less than what we're getting. We're supposed to be able to still maintain current services. That's my quick overview of that. Are there questions about the cap? It's not super pretty. It's small and hard to read. What are the questions about any part of it that?
Adrian, it's that funding that was the major topic of conversation around adding additional staff, correct?
Yes.
So this is a crucial conversation for us if we're going to get any traction from the rest of council to add the additional positions that we need, or that you all need, to do your job efficiently, right?
It is, and it's also in context of the larger library budget. So this is just the part about the funding distribution, I should say, includes levy money, and it also includes general fund from the county level, and then of course each member library community can add in whatever they're able and willing to do. And so different member libraries do that in different ways. And I think that's also a crucial conversation. Sherwood has traditionally relied on the county for the majority. And if you go back far enough, like even all of the funding for the library, but the spirit of the cooperative is like that the county, WCCLS, provides money for your essential part, and then the city or the local organization still adds in. So I think no matter how this goes and how the distribution works, we still have a lot of local conversations that have to do with values of, how important is the library, and how is it different, and how is it the same as any other city service? How does it fit in, and where do we want it to fit in? The other thing about funding is the county involvement has shifted over the years because as we've moved away from print media and moving towards ebooks, I think I talked about this last time or the time before, that budget is just inexhaustible. You could pour as much money as possible and people would still say, oh, I wish we had more copies, because that's just how popular ebooks are. And that's all paid for by the county, but we get credit for it. If it's a Sherwood patron, it shows us a checkout for Sherwood. The county pays for it. They don't pay for our books, our print books though. So both at the county level, money needs to shift into ebooks more and more each year. At the local level, we may get to a point where we actually don't need to put as much money into the print collection. We put it elsewhere. But the biggest piece of our budget is still staff, and staff is the key to it all, to make it all work. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. There are a lot of different personalities involved and a lot of different interests at stake. And there's also different sensibilities that a public library legally needs to be open and available for free to the public, whereas the other city departments can charge for services, and we don't charge for services. So to limit us because we're not bringing in income goes in contradiction to what a library is. And it's also, I think it's difficult. I think it's a crucial piece of this to explain the value of the library and what we do bring, what's the return on investment? What do we bring to the community, to the city? Why do people move to Sherwood, and why is downtown so amazing? And not that it's all the library, I'm not claiming that, but we're a big part of it, but it's hard to prove that. It's hard to put a dollar amount to that.
So before I leave, what I would just like to maybe recommend or suggest for this library advisory board is to maybe take a greater stance in the conversation to help you and the other staff as you make the case for support, so that when the budget conversation comes up next year, you have support backing you as well. So that's just my 2 cents, because it felt like you were out there on your own. And
Thank you. Jane.
Yes, one time in the past, I was given permission to make a statement to the city council, and I am happy to do that again. But obviously, I need to have the right information so that I make sense, and that you know what I'm doing. So I will do that with very short notice, but I do need a script, because you're limited to 3 minutes. And you need to use your time productively and remain neutral in tone. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do, but I can do it if I'm prepared. So that offer is open.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think, and something that I've been thinking about too is I need to get our stories and our stats and the management reports back into the council packets. I took a break from that with everything going on with working part-time during the big piece of the pandemic and getting caught up. I need that to be a priority too. There have been some conversations we've had with Kristen and with others about our budget, and some of these things are talked about. And then we came up with, when it comes to the September meeting that I was talking about just a moment ago, that CAP meeting, either right before or right after, whatever makes sense, to do a work session with council. And by then we should have a new city manager as well, I would think. And so we bring them up to speed as we go along and have more opportunities to talk about the library budget and library value, the history of the library budget, and how we got to where we are, where we want to be. Cautiously optimistic. We do have a lot of support, but there are some strong voices at the budget committee level and the council level who feel like it should be predominantly county supported. I mean, it is predominantly, but with very little city support. Jane, is your hand up afresh, or is that from last time?
Oh, I need to lower it. Whoops.
Okay. I lost track of my timing. Vice Chair Mifflin, how am I doing? What should I be talking about right now?
I
Let's see
think
if I put.
you're doing good. You're doing good. We can go on to the survey results.
Okay. Okay. Give me a moment here to get that back up. I don't know. I had everything all set. I'm gonna there anything else you want to talk about amongst yourselves for a little bit? Anybody read a good book that you've read and lately?
I just finished the book that was for the adult book discussion, the How Not to Die Alone. I finished that this morning. It was really good.
Oh,
And
nice.
the title got quite a few laughs from people who were asking me what I was reading.
Oh, yeah. I read the blurb for that one. It looked really interesting.
I just finished a good book about the Vikings, a book that was written back in 2020. And it's called, Children of Ash and Elm. Long book. It's about 650 pages, but it's the history of the Vikings. I highly recommend it. Very well written.
Nice.
I've been reading Willamette Landings, which tells about steamboat traffic on the Willamette River. And it's from the heyday of 1850. And I had no idea. I just flabbergasted at the transportation in 1850.
Thanks for bearing with me, everyone. I had to do the verification, come to my email. Crystal, if you're still listening, I had to remove yours. Crystal was helping me with the survey. So like you can only have so many remote logins into this. So it's SurveyMonkey is what we're using. What I'm going to share with you are is the dashboard. And so it doesn't have everything. It doesn't have all the comments and so on. But we've been getting really positive feedback. We've only had 93 people submit so far. Normally we get like around 400. So it's a fraction, which is to be expected. Just about right to share this. Are you starting to see SurveyMonkey dashboard across the screen? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Okay. So as a reminder, we added this new zip code question. I think I told you I was doing that, where we got spammed last time around. I had to yank the survey off because we were getting within hours, we were getting hundreds of survey results from people who obviously didn't know our library services, and it was throwing all the data off. So to get kind of stump people, basically, is ask this question: what zip code do you live in? The 97140, of course, is Sherwood. If they answered that or any of those others, honestly, that are numeric, those are surrounding areas where we expect some of our patrons might actually live. And those are all fine. But if you say other or I don't know, it will boot you out of the survey. So any spammers, if you're watching, now you know. Whoops. So I don't know if we would ever want to ask this question again if we need to. I think it's interesting how many people are in the other zip codes. And then we've always asked this question: how likely is it that you would recommend Sherwood? Normally we're really high, like in the 80s or 90s in this. So this is a little disappointing, but also I think we've been closed for so long and we've been barely offering any services, and not everybody's happy about that. So, and you could see 66 people answered, 27 people skipped it. So I don't know how I feel about the statistical, the statistical relevance. Is that, no, what do you call that? Validity, you know what I mean? It's only 66 people. And then the number of people participating or answering the questions kind of varies, but it's not everybody. We're getting some really positive feedback about people loving it. We also are getting people asking for things that we already have, or we have had, we've always had. So as often happens, there's probably an issue with marketing. Are we telling what we offer well enough? And then here's that question about what library services did you use during the pandemic? Lots of curbside, lots of ebooks and downloadable audio, book bundles, virtual events. So I would think that matches my expectations. And then if you keep that in mind and look at how important is it for you personally that these new services continue or to be offered after the pandemic. So we're looking at, this is color coded. So green is not important. Dark blue is somewhat important. That yellowish gold color is important, and the light blue is critical. So when I look at this, I think, okay, well, what if I just visually moved the light blue bar to add on to the yellow bar? So for example, for virtual events is at 20%. And if I add critical to that, well, now you're at about 35% of people think that virtual events are either important or critical, which is a pretty significant chunk. You know, I mean, it's only 65 people answered it, but that's helping us to decide to continue to offer at least some virtual programs as we go forward. And maybe people's interest in that will wane. You can do the same thing with book bundles, and it's not quite as high, but it's still, a lot of people like that. What we found though in practice is we were bundling a bunch of things. People weren't asking for them at curbside because they couldn't see them anymore, because our window blinds are stuck in the down position because of some malfunctioning with that hardware, and that's being repaired. So they haven't been able to see them from curbside, come in. Once they're in, they're browsing just the regular displays and shelves and not going to the bundles. So we actually stopped doing the bundles, but we're trying to have really good fresh displays, and those are getting used. So I think we'll evaluate. We haven't had people complain that we don't have them. And then curbside home pickup, we still have. It's hardly getting used. If you go to the Pine Street entrance, we're not open. There's a sign there saying to call us and come out. But it's still important. So, and it's easy since it's hardly anybody doing it. So I could see we'll be able to keep that up. Customer service is a little bit lower than usual, but still really high. There's some comments that I'll share with you later that came with this one too. People just love the staff. Ages and languages, as expected, a lot of families. So you see kind of the young kid age group and the parent age group, and then a little bit less for the others. Languages, of course, predominantly English. We do have this survey available in Spanish. Nobody's actually completed the survey in Spanish yet. 4 people started it, but nobody answered a single question. When those do come in, if those do come in, I will transcribe their answers over to the English version so that we can see the data all together. And then for other, we've got a mix, it doesn't show here, but a mix, I think, no, Tagalog, Farsi, I think, some Eastern languages, and German, again, missing one. So it's interesting. And then just anecdotally, she didn't do the survey, but I talked to someone who was requesting we had adult language Chinese materials. So that may grow in time. Members of the household that have a library card. How has the library made an impact on you? So again, we answer, or excuse me, we ask this one because it helps us answer a different assessment, the EDGE assessment, which is about public-facing technology. I'd say this is pretty standard for what we usually see with high-end education and entertainment, but social connection is higher than usual, I believe. I need to compare. I think that's interesting. And health and wellness looks higher to me too. And then this question, which I would recommend we keep asking this in future surveys about what changes would make the library more equitable, diverse, and inclusive. I think a lot of people, either they don't know what we're already doing, or they misunderstand the question, or they just don't have a suggestion. So there's not a lot there that I would say where we go, oh, that's a good idea. Let's add that to our equity goals. You know, if it's not that specific. And maybe we'll get more there. Some of it, there's some general comments. And then you haven't been able to use our building much these days, and it asks how important are these various aspects of the facility if we were able to expand it. And that's kind of matching what we traditionally see. So again, you could kind of add that gold and light blue bar and get a figure. The quiet study rooms, the space just for teens, the meeting space for groups, those are all high. Maker space is higher than it's been in the past. And recording space is higher than it's been in the past. When we get to the end of the survey, by the way, I'll do a report and I'll do some comparisons of the last survey and, you know, give you all the comments and everything. Now, because it will end, we don't have a meeting in August. So once I have the report, I can email it to you. We can look at it in September, but by then it will be, you know, it won't be fresh. So I wanted you to have an overview so you kind of knew how to read the report. Category or type of material you wish was available. This also, there are a lot of things on here. People are saying that we actually do have, and I can send this to you as a link too, because oops, it's a, here we go. You know, it's interactive. You can scroll down. On average, how often do you attend library events? Most people who are responding a few times a year. What obstacles keep you from attending? A lot of this has been just like schedules, family schedules. Quite a few people actually said they just moved here. And then help us prioritize potential future projects. So not just with the facility, but things that we could do for programming and so on. And so again, if you look at the yellow and the light blue and add those together, outreach is coming up really high compared to the others. In-person homework help is coming up high. And story times in other languages, I think, is getting more interest than in the past. Translators, I mean, they all actually are getting more interest than in the past. What are we doing really well? This one's always nice to read. Lots of excellent customer service, staff are great collection, lots of things like that. Loved, you know, to get books during the pandemic. Really good feel good things there. And then we ask that last open-ended question, is there anything else you'd like to share? So nothing in here that has been a huge surprise or inflammatory or anything like that. So I think even though we're getting low results, it's still very useful. I think we had been doing surveys every other year. I think we should probably do one again in a year, because 2 years feels like too long to wait for the next one, given that so few people are coming back to the library still. Any questions? Comments? All right.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adrian. So that brings us to almost the end. I don't think we have any public comment.
No, I did not receive any public comment.
Okay. Do we have any other business for the good of the order this afternoon?
Not from me.
Okay, then. So our next meeting then is going to be in September. We don't have one in August, and it's going to be in person. So if you're like me, you're looking forward to that because I am really tired of Zoom meetings at this point. So, and Teams. So with that, we can adjourn a little bit early. So thanks everybody and have a wonderful evening.
Wonderful.